Hello, and welcome to part 2 of delivering the perfect QBR. I'm Seth Wilson, and with me today is our CEO, Jeff Ferris, and our Director of Business Development, Ricky Caccini. Today, we'll be discussing more about how to do QBRs centered around listening that are more useful to you and your clients. We'll have some time for questions toward the end, so feel free to submit those. Also, be sure to sign up for our July product updates and Q&A webinar coming up on July 9th. We're going to be going over our new Academy, ticket updates, an updated Tray app, and new broadcast messaging functionality. So be sure to sign up for that at cloudradial.com/events. Right now, just have some more to say that he wasn't able to squeeze in part 1.
Thanks, Seth. So if you joined us, if you were part of the last webinar, we talked about delivering the perfect QBR. And basically, these webinars are about the anxiety of doing QBRs, or as we call them, MORs, from the last meeting, mutual opportunity reviews. So basically, you're in the right place for these webinars if you have concerns about what you've been doing, especially if you've had poor client response to those QBRs, or just not quite sure exactly how to conduct them. Last time in the webinar, we talked a lot about the strategy going into the webinar, but we didn't have time to actually go into the actual webinar or the QBR itself. So today we're going to go into that in a little more detail. Seth and Ricky will have more on that. If you didn't see the last webinar, go to our YouTube channel and check out the webinar on doing the perfect QBR. That's part 1. So this is part 2. For those of you who aren't familiar with CloudRadial, we do have a integrated account management solution. And so a lot of things you're seeing here today are based on having that product in place, because what it's going to do is give you that transparency that you need with your clients, so that, again, as you'll see in the course of this session today, the value that delivers and how that can basically really scale up your conversations. What we're focused on in the QBR with the client is listening. And the listening is really about you becoming a better partner for that company, and then also for your client to become more productive, to help them save money, make money, reduce risk. But ultimately, the goal in that QBR is twofold. It's not just about the client. It's as much about you as it is about them. Bottom line, QBRs are changing. They're changing rapidly right now because of COVID. And I think the important thing to remember is that this is bringing about a tremendous amount of change in what clients will listen to, what they'll receive now with open eyes because of the changes in the environment. And so these changes are opportunities. And basically, if you're still selling, again, the same thing that you were 5 years ago, chances are you're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. And so one of these things that QBRs need to do is, as you work with your clients, basically to listen to them, to engage them, hopefully at higher levels, then you want to be able to basically listen for those changes, figure out the solutions that are going to address those changes, and get those into place. One of the things that, as you'll see in this walkthrough today, is that it's all based on informing in advance. One of the things that's most critical to a successful QBR is moving that status information out of the QBR process. Nobody really wants to get a dry listing of things that you've done over the last 3 months or year. What they want to see is the things that are going to happen going forward. And the best way to do that is to inform them in advance. And so if you can deliver information about their infrastructure, their compliance, their data governance, their users, the Office 365 information, if you can deliver that all in advance, when you get into that QBR, your value is already established. Clients already know the value you bring to them. They already know what you're doing for them on a day-to-day basis. So now that conversation can take a whole new dimension. And if you can inform in advance, again, the QBR is a totally different experience than if you have to basically reintroduce yourself and basically explain to clients again why they're spending money with you. And so if you can push that information into things like CloudRadial, as you push that information into their daily lives so they can access it whenever they want, now what you've done is you set the stage for a good or really great QBR. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Seth and Ricky so they can walk you through the process.
Right. Oh, Seth, you're muted there, I believe.
Oh,
I'm talking away on mute. I knew I was going to do that. Thank you, Jeff, for all that. And yeah, really important thing about informing your clients every day about where they're at is that come time for the QBR, you actually have the opportunity to listen. And listening is, you know, as we know, the most important thing in sales. You need to listen to what their problems actually are before you recommend the right solution. So Rick and I, real quick, are going to run through a couple scenarios. Where Ricky will be a car dealer. We've all shopped for a car before, and that's always an awesome experience. And just kind of illustrate some aspects of where listening comes in handy in that scenario.
Right. So
walking in the car dealership.
Yeah, that's like you're gonna do that. Well, first of all, I want to preface this also by saying that like we're going to show you this, and it's more so we're doing this because everyone shopped for a car, right? Everyone knows what it's like to be just bombarded. The moment you step on the lot, someone's asking you what you want and everything, or maybe they're not. That's the worst part. That's kind of like the first worst case scenario. Seth just steps out of the lot, and the first thing I say to him is I go, "Hey, how are you doing? What you know, what are you looking for?" And before he can answer, I'm not even gonna let you finish that sentence before you can form that thought. I'm gonna say, "You know what? We have a sweet cherry red Camaro, V6, 336 ponies, I think 6,700 pound-feet of torque. That's gonna get you off the line, son. You look like a guy who can handle it."
I just need a car with more room. I don't even like fast cars.
Let me tell you, what are you driving? You got Falcons on that thing? We can get you on Pirellis. And let me tell you why Pirelli's air ride quality is going to be comparatively, right?
Pirellis.
Right. You know what that means? You don't want that. What you want is what anyone else wants, right? Obviously, car dealers are very different from like your average business, but like what you want is Seth steps onto the lot, right? And the first thing I say is, well, nothing. I go, "Hey, how are you doing? What are you looking for?" Right?
I'm looking for a new car. My current car is just really not working out.
What are you driving?
Miata.
A Miata? Oh, that's cool. I love Miatas. What do you not like about the Miata?
It's too small. I'm 6'7", and I also golf. I just need room for golf bags, and it really doesn't fit. I've got this super sweet golf bag. It shoots the clubs out when I hit a button, right? But it doesn't fit in the Miata. And so I really like, you know, how it drives. I like some of the handles well, but I really need something with more room.
Right. And ironically, I would actually recommend it golf. Sounds like you need a hot hatch. Those are cool. I mean, they zip around. They got plenty of storage space. We can go check some out. Obviously, there's tons of other ones we could look at. Let's take a look and see if they fit your needs.
Golf, yeah, I hadn't even considered that. And so,
Right.
yeah, in that scenario, in a scenario you never have with a car dealer, you're definitely going to be a lot more likely to buy from Ricky because he's actually listening and offering recommendations based off what you're saying. And so that is really the important part, and what you're getting out of that experience. But you know, you're not paying the car salesman every month for his advice, right? So turning the corner from reporting from the server room and giving them a lot of details and then leading from the boardroom is what we help you do with CloudRadial. And Ricky's going to kind of show you he's going to walk through our planner and talk through how you can deliver a QBR using CloudRadial and keep your ears open and listen, and then document that listening.
Right. And we picked the car dealership. I know it's kind of cheesy and kind of dumb, but it's kind of unfair, but it kind of happened to IT in the first place. For some reason, maybe it was with all the security stuff that happened over all the years. It's weird because when you walk into a QBR, kind of like what Jeff was saying earlier, it turned into this thing where they, you know, your clients almost expect to get sold to, they expect to get upsold to that cherry red Camaro. So I know it off the, you know, on paper, it seems very strange that we picked that to be a good example, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And what Seth's saying is, yeah, I'm, you know, obviously I'm one of the trainers that actually does the sessions in it. This, if you missed last time was more like the theory of the QBR. This is how you do it in CloudRadial specifically, like technically. There's going to be a couple of different ways because there's lots of different goals you have to achieve with the QBR in general, right? When we talk about the QBR and CloudRadial, which has a bunch of features, we're mainly talking about running it through this account area, specifically in the planner. And this is our kind of discussion point. Now, I'll talk about it throughout the whole thing about how it kind of fuels it, and there's different things that you do throughout your usage of CloudRadial that'll make this kind of a more holistic experience. But at the very basics, I want to run you through what you're looking at, right? So let's just focus on the columns first and foremost, right? We have a recommended one, we have 4 quarters, and then we have one that says installed, right? So right off the bat, hopefully you're kind of like, okay, so basically you can break this down to stuff we should talk about that we have, right? Stuff that we're actually doing throughout the quarter, starting with Q2 because it's based off of the actual calendar year, and then basically stuff we've done. So at its very most basic, something that is a slam dunk for clients is trying to make something that has typically been pretty hard to be tangible into something tangible, right? They get a bill for $5,000, $10,000 a month, whatever it is, right? And they may know what that means at the beginning, but after a while they kind of go like, why am I paying this much? What is it again? So at the very least, you can do your due diligence of just dragging stuff over and going, you know, you're paying for managed security. We already did some 365 backup for you. And all of a sudden they start to get a visual representation of what they're getting from you. If you want, you can put pricing. We'll talk about that in a bit. And what they don't have from you. So I know that's not the core point of the QBR, and there's obviously much more to it, but that kind of basic thing in front of their face is super helpful to have in the first place, right? As far as how the cards themselves work, these are also very simple. We want to make this simple on purpose. It seems like there's not much to it because there isn't. I mean, it's supposed to be something that your client can pick up and understand like that. This thing is client facing 24/7. It's not a tool they have to log into separate of this. It's not something they can't access. So they only access the one meeting day. They hop into this and they see this all the time. And the cards are kind of built with that mentality. So you have them all color coded by categories. You'll see like green's efficiency and orange is compliance. All this stuff is customizable, the color coding, the categories, everything. Trying to take your services and kind of correlate them over to the business side of things, right? So I go, all right, let's take something like a conference room upgrade. It's like, oh, supposedly it's a collaboration style thing. Says the name of the card, says a little bit of the description. If I click on the card itself, it'll actually show me details as to what that service entails, which again is super simple. Now, the thing inside this this card itself is a little bit of a text editor, but it does a lot of stuff, right? So in our demo things, which we're looking at my demo account, my Dr. Tooth's Dental, one of my sample things. All the cards in here are very, very basic and simple. I mean, they're bullet points. They're just a bit of information. I work with a lot of clients. I've seen this go crazy. I've seen embedded videos. I've seen people put their own marketing material that they already have. So it doesn't have to be simple. It can be crazy cool. It really anything in between. The core point, again, is just to show the client what you do and present that 24/7. Now, once you've got this down, you can see that I've got a bunch of services here that are kind of all over the board. This too is customizable. With CloudRadial, and I don't want to go necessarily too far into it because you got to hit me up for a fast track training if you want to do that. You can customize every single one of these, even per client, right? You can have the same set of core services going out to everybody. You can have custom ones. Again, out of the whole experience initially is just to get that first set of core services distributed neatly. But that's the most basic way. Realistically, and what Seth and I are going to kind of demonstrate is that the client doesn't really want to see this. I mean, they could play a part, but what they want to do is they want to plan for their own business. It's their roadmap. So we'll be showing you 3 different ways to use the planner. The first one being this one, kind of over already. But the second one is like projects and kind of like individual things that pop up, right? So I'm in a QBR with Seth. I just called him up. I said, hey, I'm really excited. I got this new platform. Go check out your stuff. I already moved things you're paying for. Maybe I'm even planning on doing something in Q1 there. So I'm already planning stuff out, but that's it. I only have the power of what my services are. So when I go to Seth and I go, hey, what, how are you doing? What same kind of thing as the car dealer. I'm not going to assault him saying you need a conference room upgrade first thing. And I go, do you want a Meraki wireless? So on and so forth. I'm going to go, how have you been, man? Like what's been going on for your business? How's COVID been? Has your business been okay?
Actually, we've been doing great. I don't know what a Meraki is, but I do know in the next quarter we're going to be adding about 10 people.
10 people, okay. Oh, interesting. So if you're going to hire 10 people, you probably need some tech stuff. You know what? Let's throw that on the board. Let's prep for that. So in this example, right? Obviously, I don't have a 10 people hire card ready to go. That'd be nuts. So what I can do instead is I can have my core service cards, and then I can add a project one, kind of like one that lives freehand exactly on Dr. Tooth's Dental, which we'll use as our Seth account here. So when I click on it, I'm going to click on
I'm a very
card.
rapidly growing dentist.
It looks like it. Who drives a Miata? I think. You're able to do a little bit of stuff. And CloudRadial, as far as like the power of these cards, is easy to grasp on the surface, but can be kind of intricate on the back end because it does a little bit of that project management, budgeting side of stuff. first field, right? We're going to fill out the quantity. I'm going to put 10 because 10's telling me he's hiring 10 new people. Okay. Installation, just if you don't like dragging and dropping, you like, next quarter, this quarter, we'll do it at the end of July, we'll say, or June, right? Then the summary itself. So all of a sudden you have fields to fill out. But again, unlike what we just theoretically did as an example, I don't have all the time in the world to go write my core services, fill it out, put images and stuff. I'm doing this live. I'm doing this on a webinar with you guys. I'm not going to be like, oh, hold on, I'll come back next week. So when I start filling out this card, I go, hang on, Seth, let's build this together. Right? You've got all the different categories, like I was showing you before, the color coding ones, again, fully customizable. I'm going to call this a decision-making thing because he's hiring 10 people. Okay. Title of the card, right? Let's throw in that 10 new hires. Okay. Summary of the card, prepping for new hires. You'll see me make lots of mistakes because I jitter. And then the full description, right? So like I said before, don't really have much time. So most people, when we talk to them, they use this as a station to kind of jot down their notes and kind of collaborate with the client. It's cool because, again, the client sees this, you see this, you're starting to get a little bit of collaboration, but also accountability, because the client tells you and you go, junk in, junk out. If you tell me the wrong stuff, I'm going to see it. So there's no he said, she said, there's no third-party tools. It's in the portal they use all the time. So I go, hey, Seth, all right, 10 new hires. I'm going to interpret that as June. Please agree with me for the role play purposes. And how many out of those, do you have any laptops ready, or like, I mean, I know you usually use those. Do you need any?
I think I got like 3 of them kicking around.
Okay, all right, then I'll make a note. Let's get you 7 new laptops. We'll get you a quote for that. What about like E3 licenses? Do you have any licenses? Do you know? I think last time I checked, which I can do in CloudRadial, I don't think you do. I'll make a note. I'll double check on that. But for right now, I think I'm gonna write you need 10 new E3 licenses. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. So on and so forth, right? Seth and I go back and forth. He talks about this. I scope it out. I do as much work as I want to in here. Again, this is actually the same editor you can use on the front end, right? So on the back end, like I was showing you for these. So again, you can embed videos, you can do whatever you want. You can even add attachments to it. What's important about this QBR and CloudRadial is we don't want to think of this like, I know you're in the CloudRadial webinar, but this isn't a bubble, right? We know that many people have a process. They already have some tools. They're already coming off something. Sometimes, sure, if you're looking to standardize, you're looking to build something from nothing, this is going to do it for you. But for other people that have been trading, things back and forth, there's always a place to kind of integrate that in here. So in this case, attachments, this will support kind of, if you've been looking to store stuff in one place for them, to kind of silo the projects in there for them so they can see them 24/7, really helpful. If not, I can drop this card, and later when I do have that laptop quote, when I do have other stuff, I'll drop that in here and I'll attach it to the card. So the very simplest, right? I've just built a super simple card, scoping it out. I hit submit. It goes on the board. All of a sudden, Seth goes, hey, it's not just the stuff I'm trying to give to you and show you what I can do, but it's also the projects. So you can come in here at any given time and go, where are we on this? Click. Oh, yes, 10 new hires, right? We got the description. Obviously, I would pay if I actually filled this out a little bit better. And then any attachment would be listed under here that they could actually go through and read. Now, that's cool. But if we're doing this conversation with Seth, what Seth is most likely going to want to know is, how much is it going to be? Like, what's the plan for this, right? And there's obviously lots of different things that come up with this. And for the sake of not running Seth through drills of making me, fill out 10 different cards, I'll just kind of show you the back end project management and budgeting part of this stuff. So when I click on this card, at the very simplest, like I showed you, we can modify it, easy enough. Let's go back in and edit this. There's a couple of different tabs on every single card in CloudRadial, and basically they're color coded, and color coding is actually a big thing for us. You can see that there's details in black and settings and notes are in orange. Orange, as our colors are, our own logo, is kind of the partner level settings. So you as the MSP have access to settings that the client does not, right? And that's interesting because the detail side of things, you can actually have your clients add things to the planner themselves. You can have them modify your cards if you give them the right permission. So that means that, again, it is a collaboration. It's not you just vomiting services on them. It's literally going like, hey, let's plan for this, let's prep for this, let's have a consolidated area to do it. Let's head over to the settings. Let's talk about the other stuff, right? So not that complex. It's kind of broken up logically. So some of the stuff on the display, right? So if I'm trying to emphasize something, I want to make sure that people can actually see this. I want to see, it stands out. I'm going to say, yeah, strongly recommended. We got to do this. It's going to bump it up. You can see that under here under managed services. Typically more recommended for like your core services, but you can certainly use that as a little bit of an emphasis. Do you want to show them a price in the first place? Let's say yes. And is it going to be a monthly label? Now, in my example, whenever we talk about this, I always tend to just try to simplify just because I know that this will take into account stuff like laptops, which are kind of like one-time things, and then there may be a management fee for like the E3 licenses. So there's lots of stuff here, but for the sake of example, I'll just keep it simple. I'll say it's just going to be a flat monthly cost for this stuff. And lastly, I love this. This seems so simple, and it is, but the last thing I want to do is I go, hey, Seth, I think it's going to be about $500, and I'll write that down for you. And Seth goes, yeah, that's cool. And next thing you know, I go back to the laptop, you know, my guy, and he goes, $650. And I go, oops. And he budgeted all wrong, right? So estimate is nice to keep that just as a discussion point. We'll talk about it whenever I get the full numbers. You can always take that off later. Project management side of stuff, right? Even this is very simple, should be very easy to use. Proposed status cards, that's kind of like we're seeing them over here, right? They're just solid cards that work just fine. Now, if I swap Seth's role for a second and I say Seth was my account manager, Bud, and we're working this account together, maybe it's not so cool that it's proposed, because even if I wanted to practice something, it's a bigger account and kind of staging the board for them. It's a little awkward if you go in there and you start raising prices and doing all the other stuff. So something else you can do is you can take this and you can make it a draft mode. So draft mode is going to put a dotted line around the card, not visible to clients, only visible to you guys, which means that it's really good for collaboration. And when you're ready to propose, move it back. Everything after that, client approved, in planning and progress completed, all different things that functionally do the same thing. They put a green check mark on the card and they show the client that in some form or fashion, we're moving forward with this. And I'm sure you don't want to watch me do that for every single field, but the idea here is that whether it's the priority or the percentage complete or any of these things, it's to give more context to this project. So the client knows exactly where we're at, kind of how we're proceeding with it and all that stuff. Now, currently, as CloudRadial is, I know probably some of you are already asking this, you're like, does this integrate with stuff? Is this just a free, what is this tying into? As of right now, it is its own system, which it means that it's, you know, you put percentage complete, it's more of like a collaboration system between you and your client. The next thing that CloudRadial is going to do, we're actually actively working on this, is tying this in with opportunities in the PSAs, which means that as you log this and you kind of tie this back and forth with projects and opportunities specifically, it'll actually correlate to stuff in the PSA. So there's no double logging of work. It's something that instantly works out of the box, and they'll see that move along in a client-facing format. For right now, it's still useful because this is still something that you can use to consolidate the status, and it'll kind of pick up there too. So it'll be really, really interesting too. We'll come back to the next field here on client scoring. That is a really interesting bit that can be used to kind of gauge your account management as far as like standardization of account management, gamification, making sure you know the scores of your services, which clients are worth more than others. That is going to be really awesome. We'll come back to it a little bit later. So past the project management part of it, we'll jump right down to the revenue planning section, which is really the budgeting part, right? And budgeting, again, not a budgeting tool yet, really more of just like a kind of like the project, right? It's more of like an FYI, help me figure this out, help me see what you're saying. So I'm trying to help Seth understand how much I'm going to quote him for these 10 new hires and more or less how much that'll be, right? So is it monthly recurring revenue? Is it a one-time project, right? Let's say, again, I'll keep it super simple. I'll just say it's a monthly recurring revenue. How much is it going to cost? Well, we're going to put the base cost here, right? I'm going to say, hey, let's say it's going to be $10 for those E3 licenses. Again, I know I quoted laptops and stuff, but shh, don't ruin my webinar. And then that is going to multiply by the quantity we put at the beginning, that 10. So that's what's going to display for him, and we'll see that. And really every other field in here, starting from cost down. So we have cost and schedule planning and product coding, a bunch of other stuff. That is meant to show you exactly how deep we can go into the details with the QBR. And the project management and everything else, right? We'll be able to give you them accurate counts based off all this stuff, especially even with product coding, just like this example. There's going to be things that require multiple steps, right? It's not just about clicking an order a laptop form or doing things back and forth. Tying that all in, making that a project, and helping Seth understand what we have to do to get it out and giving him as fair a quote as possible in a way that he can get visibly is going to tie into all this. But because right now we're not tied in, really you can use it kind of up to here. So it simplifies the whole thing quite a bit, right? I'll go through this, I'll put a little bit more stuff in here just so it fills out a little nicer. Right, we're gonna finish that on June 3rd. It's assigned to Tom, right? Okay, cool. So I've got a little bit of the details in there. I'll hit submit, and all of a sudden, as I'm doing this with Seth, as I'm going through, then I go, all right, let's throw that up here. The card now starts to look way more interesting, right? We got our 10 new hires, about $100 a month, estimated price, right? I might come back and adjust that later. I'm just telling him I'll throw that on there. Clients approved this. Seth said, go ahead with that project. Let's go forward. At the top of the column for the quarter, we can even see how much money he's going to be spending per month. Should I add more and more cards to this, it will actually display more prices and all that stuff. In fact, something that I'll do, and hopefully, you know, I don't want to cause too much confusion, but we have a demo account that we typically use for our demonstrations whenever people, you know, are interested in the product. And that one's planner is much more filled out than this one. This one I kind of started stock on purpose. I'm going to swap over to my other tab that has that one to show you what an example of like a pretty filled out board looks like. Right, so this is an example of somebody who's actually pretty into it, and you can see some of that budgeting going a little bit further, right? I can see some of those client approved ones. I can see some of those 27 pricing, and this is a one-time project fee. So they're able to see both the recurring revenue and the project stuff all in one, more or less what you're saying per quarter. All the other stuff they're already paying for too. So it kind of starts to tell the story. It scales really well because you're able to put this here visually and start telling everything you want to do. And they go, yes, I understand. They run down the column. They go, perfect. I understand that too. Now there's something else to this, and this is more so for the back end people, right? Not so much for Seth's purposes. One last thing we can do on these cards, other than just giving more information and filling out the budgeting stuff, there is in fact also a notes section on the back here. And this is pretty simple. This is almost like a mini CRM style, you know, thing where you could put in your notes. And if you're collaborating between account managers, you can go ahead and say stuff like, hey, you know, I talked to Seth today. Approved, right? That's an easy one. Something else that you might want to do is if things go south. I mean, I know we're role playing and we're being real cheerful, but a lot of times you do your best and you say everything you need to say, but sometimes it just doesn't pan out. And you want to note that because it's not always an elective thing that you want to give people that's like a cool upsell. Sometimes it's something that you genuinely feel is going to hurt their business if they don't have, right? A common example I usually use is like on a server backup or something like a security. Just like we were talking about the car dealer before, whenever you go through and you log these things, it's really important because you're not usually saying that out of malice. You just want to note it. And if people say no to that, and then eventually something happens, right? Their server breaks, something else goes wrong. Having those notes is really critical for accountability. Saying like, hey, again, in that same place that we're logging all this stuff, I can still say, I did my best, and you still said no, and here's all the notes for it. So you can do that on the back end in your own private section. You can do that on the front end of the card itself. In either scenario, what's going to happen is that you'll probably want to clear the card off the board. That's another big thing, right? So we're starting to build this out. We have our core services going. I'm going with Seth. I could do more of these if you want, but the core idea is that I've started all this project, so he's starting to see value in this too for himself. Seth goes, I don't want that. You know, actually, I changed my mind. Sorry.
Yeah, we're a dentist. We don't actually hire 10 people in a quarter. Who knew?
You liar, you made me scope it out. And then what do I do, right? It's you know, I go through this same thing with the core services, even the logistics of like, do you always display these? What happens? Well, maybe they don't even have a conference room, right? Seth's the dentist that drives a Miata. I mean, I can do the math. You probably can't do that conference room upgrade. So if I do it, I click on the card, you'll always have an option to delete them off the board. Don't really want to do that because you never know. You never know when you know, proposing the stack, building out the project makes you look good, can be a referral down the line. You just don't know that. So you never want to clear stuff off. The best way to put that kind of card, put that project into a decline status in CloudRadial is just to right click on these cards. This easy, just say move to options, say not a thing right now, right? It's an option. Same thing, right? I did that for my project. I can do that for my core services. I can do that whatever I want. It clears the board. What's happening is as people, you know, as this thing evolves and things are going to go on and we have more and more cards on here, kind of like our demo account, right? It can be a little bit visually overwhelming. So it's nice to be able to clear the board and kind of bank stuff. At the top left, we got a bunch of different options specifically for this planner. The board view is currently what we drag and drop those cards pretty simply. There's also a list view, which is functionally the same thing, except lists. If you don't like colors, I like colors, so I usually use the board view. And then after that, there's options. That's where all the stuff gets sent to. So you can see all the stuff that Seth is elected to not really want to do, right? We don't knock that off because again, you've scoped it out, you've put your notes, you've taken the time to build it. You don't want to just clear all that. So if Seth comes back and like I was saying before, I wrote all my notes down, I did my due diligence, I've presented something and I said, here's my best attempt, and Seth goes, no. Then I go, great, here it is. I will sign you off on that, right? It's accountability. I can say, hey, Seth, I know you said no. I'll just move it over here. Again, this area is still client visible, so the client can see all this stuff. And if I ever need to bring it back, then no problem, right? I just right click on it again. I move her back to the list and we're off to the races again. It all of a sudden becomes an option. So it's very easy to kind of put that back. It starts back off under recommended and I go, Seth, you were doing it in Q3 now. That'll be cool, right? all of a
Finally
sudden
figured out how to sabotage the fluoride plant in town. Big hires coming.
Yep, cool. And what Jeff was saying initially, I think is also important. Like, I know it's usually fun for me to drag and drop cards and talk about these and be like, look at all the different scenarios, even hiding and all that stuff. But the power in having all this in one place, right? Because between me and you guys, it's like, what's the difference between this and Trello if it's just about dragging cards, right? There's not much. But the most important thing about CloudRadial is that if you're using this as an account management platform and you've been using it for all the other features we have, right? You can do your ticketing in there, you can do your service catalog, you can do all the wealth of reporting. All that stuff becomes something that you can kind of bypass that initial car salesman mentality, right? You don't have to just sit here and try to sell Seth managed services or Meraki's or backup or whatever, because it's all integrated in here. So I mentioned briefly before that there's about 3 ways to use this planner, one of them being the core services, 2 of them, or the second one being what we were talking about with Seth, where it's like back and forth natural communication. Here it is. And the third one is to basically audit their own account. This is really helpful for account managers that don't really know how to standardize stuff. Doing it 10 minutes before, a day before, ideally. You audit through, you kind of check stuff. The way that CloudRadial is built, it's almost built to flow information down. So everything you put in here is meant to give you data points to enforce arguments or bring up discussion points. There's a lot to it. Now, my Dr. Tooth's Dental, my Seth, which I assume is Dr. Tooth, I haven't done a very good job because I have basically nothing in here. But in the demo account that we have, there's plenty of data to play with, right? So as we go through all these different feature sets, which hold all the other things CloudRadial can do, like infrastructure reporting, if I do my job and I go through just a bit before and I start going, oh, I can see the endpoints in Seth's company, right? I go, let's check all this stuff. And I want to draw attention to a specific one. And I go, oh, what's wrong with this one? Pretty much anything in CloudRadial is going to give you the option quickly to add stuff to the planner, which is really nice. Because again, as you're doing this, as you go through and you go, I want to make this a point in the planner, let me write some notes freehand, and you can quickly drop cards down there just as you figure stuff out. Now, like Jeff was saying, and basically the whole point of the QBR is not to get stuck in the weeds of small stuff. Like, I don't probably want to bring to the table that this one computer has an unencrypted drive. That's not really something that we care about. That's going to probably hurt us more than it helps us. So while it can be done, just kind of focus on the bigger stuff, right? I can track licenses for 365, right? So I can start doing an audit and go, you know what? We need more 365 business standards. I can see that we have none left. One's only to SAFI. Let's add that to the planner as a discussion point. Or most importantly, I can walk you through all the different stuff we do. In our dashboards feature that we have, the dashboards kind of summarize all the information in CloudRadial and are able to display it in graphs, right? And that's found under that same account area we were just doing the planner. We did account and planner. Obviously, this demo account has a lot more features enabled. Let's hit that dashboards button. So when I go through the dashboard and I'm able to pull all that information up and I want to show people all these things, right? I want to draw to the fact that they need managed security. But if I just tell them that, that's probably not good enough. But if I already have data on the disk encryption being pretty shoddy, and I know nobody has their password set, and I know nobody has their screensaver enabled, even though Dr. Tooth's Dental got to apply to HIPAA. I mean, you got to do this stuff, right? All of a sudden, I'm able to go, maybe I should show Seth this. And kind of like Jeff was saying, I'm able to take all this stuff out of the equation if I show him this daily, which these things can do. But if I want to make this a point of discussion in the planner, I can just hover over, I can say add to the planner. So this is another thing that can go through and reinforce the argument. So by doing stuff like this, right, on the fly, I'm going to say this is a security issue. I want to make sure that they can see this, and we can go through and go submit. Okay. Now, again, over and over again, I have lots of different tabs, even on my service desk, right? I can do that with my ticket histories. I can show him all kinds of insights if I want to. When I go back down to that planner and I'm done, all of a sudden I have every single, you can see we do this a lot on this one. I have all these different data points that prove what I was saying, that prove exactly what I want to show him. So when I'm talking to Seth, yes, it's obviously going to be a conversation of, hey, back and forth, what do we need? It's also not going to be directly, you should buy this. I go, I noticed this, this, and this, and I'm just telling you that's why we should do the managed security thing, right? We got hard drive issues, we got disk encryption problems. What do you think? And you've done your due diligence. This is what we call evidence-based selling, right? So you don't need to be a salesperson because you got the data. Like, you've done the job. There's no car salesman needed here. It's right here for you. And that's kind of the built up bit of everything. One of the things that I believe we talked about last time was policies, right? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Seth, I was not on that webinar, but last time we talked about the policies and the upgrade that we have there. And for those of you that do not know what I'm talking about, CloudRadial is able to take kind of that infrastructure data I was mousing over earlier, like with all those endpoints, and basically run those through compliance policies to build a set of standards for your business. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. And that's really important even for this planner. So found under compliance policies, you're able to quickly take things in their infrastructure and showcase them issues relating to business specific terms, right? We got decision-making problems. We're good in collaboration, right? We got lots of problems everywhere else. Oh no. Well, these policies, again, the client really doesn't need to see this, but just so you guys know, are selectable by different types of asset, right? So we're able to check for the right OS version. We're able to check if they have an encrypted hard drive or not and translate that into scores, into risk scores. We're able to translate that into something that they can understand and eventually turn that into that your red in security or red here and there and there and there. And even this is a pretty critical part, right? Obviously, reporting is a completely separate discussion from the planner in general. It's kind of like a preface to it. But should I want to drive attention to one specific policy, I go, hey, we got a problem because all these guys do not have the right AV. I can click on it. I can see all of my offenders. And even in this example with these policies, I can add this to the planner and go, hey, look at all these things. We got a problem. We start correlating all that stuff. So again, I know I zip around very quickly in CloudRadial, but the core point of this is that the more information you have, the stronger your discussion becomes here. So Seth and I are not doing this because we need to go through every single thing. I call up Seth and I go, yeah, you already know all this stuff, but I want to show you why that matters to your business, right? And if you can do that, if you can just break away from the stupid stuff going like, well, how many, I don't know, how many encrypted drives we have on, does Jim have an encrypted drive versus like, hey, this is an issue with security for your business, right? Here's what we have to do. Here's the plan to get you good. And you're going to be able to see marked results because we're tracking all that stuff. They can actually start to correlate going like, you know, we used to be red on everything before we had this. Now we're green on everything. And it's something that the human brain can see that correlation, especially because we have all the charts and stuff too. So in a nutshell, that's kind of like the three different basic ways to use this planner. Another really critical part of it is meeting with people, right? So Seth and I are doing this and like, that's cool. And everything's pretty well siloed, whether it's projects or proof and individual stuff. But all of a sudden, like, what about an overarching meeting thing? Those of you with attentive eyes may see that there's a meetings tab up here, and that is also a pretty big part of it. So in the meetings tab, I want to track with Seth and I want to show him how often we're meeting, what the outcome of our meetings are, and just kind of put all that stuff in there too. Let's pop that open now. We've never met before, so I'm going to add a meeting here and take a little bit of time to log this for you. So when we add the meetings, we can do a couple different things. We can add data for planned upcoming meetings or even historic completed meetings, whatever we prefer, right? So if I'm gonna say, you know what, let's log the completed meeting. It was in January, we had our last QBR and we met on January, so we met on a Wednesday, I believe, January 1st. An organizer was Ricky. And here's where the agenda can go, right? Same thing. Those of you with existing QBR things looking to hybridize it or at least make it more client-friendly, client-facing, don't have to drop your current approach. You can either transition slowly or just keep that going. You can still add anything you have, reports and anything that overall kind of talks about it directly in here. This is kind of where the overall thing is meant to go. I believe as our integration with the PSAs grow and as our integration with everything else kind of advances, as of right now, the client can go in here and see this as a log. And that is a simple thing that keeps you, again, very accountable, keeps visibility up high. But whenever the integration with the PSA kicks in, this is going to be really awesome because we're going to be able to do more interesting things like sending this out via an agenda, kind of spurring them, showing them more often, but still plenty of value in showing people exactly what was happening here and what the outcome was, especially if you deal with like a co-managed scenario, you deal with multiple people and you're looking for a single source of truth still in their portal, right? Still a place that they can go and they can get a full scope of your services, who met with what was the outcome, all in one place. So it's a planner, but it's also kind of a CRM at this point, like a little teeny tiny baby one that can track these projects and all that. What about now, right? So if you start doing all of this and you start taking the effort of building all of this through, and you start thinking about it, you go, I've taken the time to separate out my core stack. I've had this conversation with my clients, like Seth and I go back and I'm tracking projects, I'm tracking my meetings, I'm tracking everything. What if there was a way to look at this as an overview, which would be really helpful? And of course there is, right? So doing this is kind of what Jeff was saying at the beginning as well, which is you start to get some really good insights for your business, right? It's not just about the client anymore. A lot of the other stuff in CloudRadial, such as the ticketing stuff, you set that up for their benefit. Obviously, it streamlines your stuff, but there's got to be something you can get out of this, and there definitely is. Again, Dr. Tooth's dental on my personal client, not much data, so we'll pop back over to that demo account. We've been doing all of this discussion really under the account planner. I've been showing you the cards and the nuances and all that stuff, and that's pretty cool. Under this partner dropdown, which is basically the control panel for CloudRadial, there is also the partner level planner. And this is the overview planner that'll show you the status of the planner for every single client you've got. So as an account manager or owner or whoever's running these things, when they go through and they start doing this and you go, give me a sit rep on everything, it can come in here. So this one, you can see that we're going to get a little bit of visual overload, but I'll show you how to parse this out pretty easily. You can see literally every single planner cards, whether they're projects. I can see the company, the territory, a lot of the stuff pulls from the PSA, and even the amount kind of in flux, as well as when it's set to be installed, right, completed. And there's a lot of stuff. And you can see that the cards that I have, enabled for people are showing for all my other clients in here. It's kind of a lot of just data dump information. The way that this was intended to be digested and kind of seen was not actually from here. It's actually with our sales matrix. So again, just from doing this, just from moving stuff around, I'm going to open up the sales matrix and you'll see what I mean. It's going to open up a really easily readable Excel file that you can quickly sort and go, huh, you know what? What are we doing across it? You know, we haven't got a single conference room upgrade for Azure or all files. But our digital efforts client, yes, we're looking pretty good for that, right? Everything's on the board. This one's not considered for these guys. Yeah, that's not a thing, right? So I can start to make decisions going like, hey, what kind of things am I not marketing enough? Do people not understand the value of these conference room upgrade? Or did I make a mistake in my stack? Like, is this not something people care about? Giving you the insights to do this, right? In conjunction with the projects, in conjunction with the proof and everything, allows you to quickly jump in here and start to improve your own business, which is obviously a really, really powerful point. Same thing with the meetings we were talking about before, right? If I start logging those meetings and I'm an account manager, I'm looking to get accountability for a team of account managers, what can I do? Well, if I run over to this same area and I have a overview meetings tab, all of a sudden I can start to see who the manager is for that client. When was the meeting last completed? When's the next planned one? Are they meeting enough? Am I doing enough to kind of keep up with everything? Last but not least in here, there is the scoring, which I promised we would come back to before. And the core idea, kind of like we were looking on the cards before, is that you can actually score each and every one of your services. And when you put these scores, these are completely arbitrary numbers that are based off of the importance of these services to you. You're going to start to see exactly the weight of these services. So you can start to make actionable or well, really actions on them. Let me show you what I mean. So given that you fill out that little client scoring part, using this area, you can see the account manager. You can quickly see in a little bit of an easier to read format how much of their stuff is sitting in that recommended column, how much of that stuff is sitting in their planner, right? How much of that stuff is moved over and what their overall score is. Now you can see in our demo account, we haven't done a very good job of staging the other things, but for the most part, we can see and we can quantify why Digital Efforts is our best client, why Jeff is our top account manager in one place. Again, none of this takes basically any effort because all of the stuff we've looked at back here is just of the nature of doing what we did with Seth. Just by talking about stuff, just by moving it back and forward, and just by going and having a good conversation. So we've turned it into something that is pretty easy to do, extremely easy to standardize, and you just get to chit chat with people and just fill out their needs. And like, what's better than that, right? It turns it into something that makes a whole lot of sense kind of every day. And there's not really a need to do this aggressively, right? Because like I said, it's like the client can see all the data in here all the time. The clients can add to the planner if they want to. That's something that comes out of the box. Now they can't touch or edit your stuff, but if they want to, that's going to be really cool. As of right now, there's not a notification system of when the client were to add a card, which usually is kind of a weak spot. Like we usually tell people, it's like, hey, you should say we're going to review everything you add on a set date, whether you want to do it monthly or quarterly, whatever it may be. But as soon as we get that integration with the PSAs and we're able to time with projects, it's going to be really good because if you train your clients to add to their roadmap and you train them to basically request whatever they like, it's going to notify you and start something saying, hey, Seth from Dr. Tooth wants 10 new hires. Why don't you get on that? And you can kind of break forth with that. So it's built in a really powerful way right now, and it's going to be undoubtedly even more powerful in a couple months here too.
Yeah, really excited to see where Jeff takes that. We had a little time for questions, but it looks like Safi's fielded everything kind of in a pretty effective way that came up. A recording of this webinar, as well as part one of delivering the perfect QBR, can be found at our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/CloudRadial. Even if you don't want to go watch the recordings, just go throw us a subscribe anyway. We'd appreciate it. Again, we've got another webinar coming up on July 9th. That's going to cover our July product updates, which is going to be a huge one, probably one of our bigger product updates with a lot of neat features that people have been asking for. So be sure to join us for that. Again, you can sign up for that at cloudradial.com/events. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you on July 9th. Everybody in the US, have a good July 4th.
Yeah, everybody not still do that, but still.
Blow something up. Blow something up for us. Come on.
Do it for us, guys. Come on.